What's up, guys? We are feeling post-run high.
Yeah, we ran so much.
We ran so much. After you
We ran like
Padel.
barely a mile, but
After you played Padel, though.
Padel, yes, after I played Padel.
Wait, we just had a whole debate over whether it's called Padel or paddle. I was convinced, and keep in mind, I don't play any racket sports, but I was convinced that Padel was different than paddle, which is different than pickleball, which is different than, obviously, tennis.
No, Padel and paddle, the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just like if you want to be a little posh person, you can call it Padel. Like, I don't know, is it maybe it's the French, I don't even know what the French version of paddle is. Like, it's probably Padel.
Somebody please let us know where Padel came from, because when I heard it for the first time too, I thought it was a joke. But
it came from like snobs who play too much paddle, and then they're like, I'm going to call it Padel now.
I love that you're calling them snobs because, okay, so for context, Eris and I ran together last year for the first time, and you were very much so in your European kid, rich kid character. Mm-hmm. But that's not really you.
No, it's not. I think that people are starting to realize when I'm starting to post so many of the same videos. Yeah, it's obviously, it's a character. It's like this funny satire character I created of a rich European kid and all the culture difference with Americans, and you know the vibes.
Take us back to your childhood. Where are you from? What were you like growing up? Give us the backstory.
Yeah, so I grew up in Belgium most of my life, in Brussels. So I went to, like, one of the first schools that I went to was in French. So that's how I learned French. It was like one of my first languages. And then my mother is Greek. So I honestly consider myself more Greek than anything. I've just always resonated more with the culture of Greece. Greeks are such warm people. Like, I just love the culture. I go back every summer and I just feel like I'm at home there. So
Every summer?
Every summer, and I just love Greece. I grew up in Belgium, and then I went to a very like private school, which I was surrounded by all these rich kids who were just characters. And I would always like, growing up, I would do accents. I loved acting. I guess it really stemmed from like, I'll do any accent. And like, am I doing an accent right now?
I don't know. I guess you are.
Yeah, I am. Like, no one knows my real voice.
Oh, can I hear your real voice? We need to hear your real voice.
No, this is my real voice.
Okay.
I always exaggerate the French accent, but the reality is like, I have a very neutral accent.
Turn on the French accent for a second for the people listening so that we can
So the French accent is like this. Like, this is Louis speaking. And sometimes I'll do a super exaggerated French accent. But what's really funny is that French people actually think I'm French. When they meet me, they're like, mec, je kiffe trop tes vidéos. Like, they're like full on French. And then I'm just like, I'm actually not French.
Right. Which is such a compliment, especially when you're in places like Paris.
French people, like, even if you tried speaking French to them and you weren't French, they'd be like, you're not French. Like, don't even speak French.
Right.
But yeah, I grew up in Belgium. So like, for me, it's like, I know how to do a perfect French accent and speak the language because I've been surrounded by it my whole life.
When did you move to the US?
I moved 5 years ago. I moved to Boston to go study at Northeastern. So I studied entrepreneurship. I've always been in entrepreneurship. When I was 16, I actually did this competition called MIT Launch X, which is where like you have a startup and you're like at a high school and you can apply to get investment from MIT. So it was really cool because like one of the first times I was in Boston. So when I was 16, I got invited by MIT to go there and pitch my company. And that's when I was like, I want to move to Boston. I want to move to the US because, I mean, even in Europe, like everyone stays in Europe. But I was like, I love the US. I just love the innovation. As much as I shit on the US, like in all my videos, I admire like living in the US. Like it's a really cool place. I wouldn't stay in Belgium, ironically, because like everyone's so conservative. And like also the reason I want to make fun of rich kids is because I didn't like growing up in that environment. Like everyone's super conservative. Everyone's so full of themselves. And it's very like, especially European aristocratic people, there's such a personality that's also kind of what initiated me just creating a character, like, and mocking them. So anyways, I did that competition. I got really into entrepreneurship. So I moved to Boston. I also met a lot of super rich international like friends, which was also like just continuing the whole like the character was also very much inspired by friends that I made in college. But Boston was just a great city, very studious, very like smart. Yeah, so for me it was incredible.
And I mean, Boston has its own set of characters, right? So you go from posh French kids to then the Boston accent. What was that
Boston.
transition? Yeah. What was that
Habit.
like?
It's like my boy's wicked smart.
Was it a culture shock moving to the US or no?
It was a huge culture shock because Europeans like are like very conservative. Like if we walk into an elevator, like we're not going to say hi to someone. And it's like you walk in the US like, "Oh my God, hi, how are you? Like what's your name? Like are you new here?" Like, and I was like, I literally thought people were being like fake to me. I was like, is this how everyone is? Like, and then I realized it's just like American culture. Like people are always like that, especially in Boston. Like New York, it's more like you look at someone, they're like, what the hell are you looking at? But it's like the whole culture of like the way people interact and the way people start like talking to you. I was like, wow, like this is really different from what I've grown up to. And especially because I went to like first like a Belgian school and then I went to like a private school. Like it was a really unique experience, like studying in America, like really, really unique experience.
I remember I did a program when I was in high school where I was in Germany for a little bit, and that was such a culture shock for me. And my friend and I were staying in the same house. We were living with a German family, and I always thought that I was a very like reserved person growing up. Like my dad was always so strict with manners, and oh my gosh, though I remember it was like every door has to be closed in the house, like no open doors.
Every light has to be switched off.
The way you shower and then clean up the bathroom. I always thought I was a pretty tidy person in the bathroom and just a clean person overall. And, you know, after living there, I was like, this family hates me.
No, Europeans are so different. When I moved to the US, like I was like, everything's so big. Like you have big cars. Like it just feels like completely different world. So it's
big portions.
Huge portions. Like when I was eating the food in the like my dining hall, I was like, what the hell is this? I was like, pizza in the morning, like hot dogs in the morning, like who allows this? Like who creates this menu? Like I was like, this is preposterous. Like, so it was a shock.
It is pretty gross. Okay, and you have a twin brother, right?
I have an identical twin brother, yeah.
That is like one of my favorite facts about you. And for so long, I remember my fiance and I couldn't figure it out. Because I knew from our interview that there was a techie side of you. Because at the time, I don't know whether you were working on your own startup or for a startup, but it was a tech company that you were at. So I thought that maybe the tech guy that's also online was you, but it's your twin brother.
My brother helped me so much with like the European kid also. And at one point it was like so viral. He's like, I think I'm going to start like a whole nother channel also, like doing like similar style, but like I want to do like a tech CEO character. And it's been great. He's been like accumulating his following. I can't even convey to you like how unique it is having an identical twin. The craziest thing is like, obviously when we got started, like, you know, every little amount of fame affected him because people would stop him in the streets and be like, European kid.
Yeah.
The thing is, he's been in some of my videos. Sometimes I'll have him do a video. Like some of the most iconic videos he's done is like, for instance, I posted one recently with Jake Paul.
I saw that video. Wait, were you in Puerto Rico or did he come to New York?
I was in New York. That was my brother in the Hamptons. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So people don't really.
So your brother filled in for you.
My brother filled in for me. That's the most convenient thing with having a twin.
That is the most convenient thing. Did Jake know?
I don't know. That's a great question.
That is hilarious. Okay, that is hilarious. I saw that video. I was like, I love that he's filming with Jake Paul.
Another one of the most viral videos is with Carlos Sainz, the F1 driver. He was invited by Amazon for the Formula One in Montreal. He did a video, full European kid. No one could tell the difference.
Wait, that's so impressive. So he can also do the accent.
He can do the accent.
Oh my gosh, we got to get him on here. Where does he live now?
He currently lives in SF. So that's kind of his whole tech side. He's always been into startups. And also he's gotten me into it. So yeah, he lives in SF.
Okay.
But he's moving to New York right now.
That must be so exciting.
It is.
Because I have a twin brother as well. Not identical. I wish I had an identical twin sister. Every time somebody asks, like whenever I say I'm a twin, everybody's like, are they identical? It's like people get excited for like identical twins, but I'm like, no, always letting down everybody that asks. But it's still cool. And my twin for 3 years was living in San Francisco, and same way you described it, like has been my biggest supporter aside next to my fiance for the running interview show. And when he was living in San Francisco, I felt the distance. So I'm curious, what was it like having your brother all the way across the country?
Oh, it was honestly incredibly hard. Like, it's crazy. Like, when I spent 18 years growing up with my brother, and then all of a sudden, like, we're in different continents. You can like feel it. It's weird.
Especially twins, identical twins, because you guys have a very interesting connection.
Yeah. What's funny is like, as soon as because I guess I was the first one to really start getting into content. During COVID, I was like fascinated. I would see someone with like 100K. I was like, wow, like how do people do that? Like,
Right.
It's crazy. I just started doing random videos and then just accidentally like stumbled into like making fun of a rich French kid that like turned into a whole like meme on social media. But then the point is like, he's now in content also.
Do you guys have any recognizable features to tell each other apart?
There's one thing that you can tell. He has like a mole here.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. Like, that's the biggest thing.
I do feel like I knew that, because that's kind of how I started feeling like, okay, wait, these are separate people.
Exactly.
And in your videos, you feature your dad pretty frequently, right?
Yeah.
Is that actually your dad?
It's my real dad.
I love
which
it.
is crazy.
What does he think about all the content?
I just went up to him and I was like, I just think it'd be really funny. Like, I just started this like page making fun of this European kid, and we need to do a skit with like Papa and like do a funny like.
Yeah.
And he was just like, yeah, sure. Like, the funniest thing is that my dad does not have a French accent. My dad grew up most of his life in the US.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
So he has more of an American accent.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And like now we like write the scripts together. Like before we do the
love
videos.
that.
Like if we're gonna go on a private jet, we'll like, all right, let's think of a funny script to like write together.
Oh my God. And your scripts are so good. How do you come up with your scripts?
My dad helps me with them. Okay. Like there was one recently we posted like on this private jet that's like, he's like, you spend $20,000 in this restaurant, and then we took like a reference from exactly, like Club 55. We took a reference from Wolf of Wall Street, and then he was like, and then say, right, it's for the cat. It was about the caviar, and then he say, you have to mention beluga. It'd be funny. And I was like, okay, Dad, like write these scripts for me. Like he loves it.
That's
like
amazing.
He has fun with it.
And some of your videos, you guys are doing pretty like bougie, expensive things. So I'm curious, how did those videos come to be?
I mean, honestly, just like, I guess different connections.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, like what I always love to tell people, like when they meet me, is like, don't ever see like nothing is real on social media. And I think that's why I also like kind of taking some more serious approach. Like the reality is, like, I love having people come up to me, but they're like, if they're thinking that they want to aspire to like all this materialistic stuff that I post about, like, it's not always real. It doesn't seem the way that like it is. Like one of my most viral videos is the one in Casablanca, like arguing with Fabrizio, the bouncer, right? Which is obviously scripted, just so people know. And like I was trending as Bernard Arnault's son, which is LVMH owner. Mm-hmm. It was so viral that when you searched up his name, this is one of the richest people in the world, my video would come up. And people, I think, genuinely believed that I was the son of Bernard Arnault, which is so ridiculous from a TikTok that like all of a sudden, like I'm like, it's quite frankly very stupid, but like also that's the way that the content's designed to be. It's supposed to look realistic. But the reality is like all the stuff that you see, like the fancy cars, like, and I also work with other influencers. Like it's all fake. Like it's not reality.
It's good for people to just know in general that, content isn't real and everybody's lives might seem perfect online, but everybody deals with their own shit in their own way. So I love that you're saying that. Yeah. I also think it's cool because there's so many different ways to go viral online. Like your European rich kids skit is so different than what I do, which is so different than what lifestyle content creators do. What do you think is the key to success online?
I think honestly the key is consistency and just creativity. Like I always tell people, like always experiment, like try out so many different concepts. Like I didn't stumble upon the European kid without just like literally just having like just being actively like trying random videos, like obviously which stem from just like my love of acting and like putting on a personality. and then obviously turns into this whole brand. So always experiment. Don't be afraid to like post whatever you feel like. The biggest thing is just you will always learn from like videos you're posting on how like what's working, what isn't. And then honestly, the biggest thing is just consistency. Like, which is hard. Like, it's hard being consistent.
It is. And I think the other thing that's a really good learning from what you do is I think for social media, you have to find something to do online that is unique to you. And I think being able to portray a rich European kid is so unique to you and you're good at it. And that allows you to be consistent with it. I think like you can't try to be anybody else online or copy anybody else's content because the audience, it's not going to resonate because it's been done before.
If you're going to start like a page on social media, make it as niche as possible. Like I see a lot of people like trying to become fashion influencers. I'm like, okay, like that's great, but there are a lot of fashion influencers. What if you could do, you know, sustainable fashion and like that kind of niche? Like you're already entering like a more niche market. Like the whole idea of like a obnoxious European rich kid who is getting into arguments is a very niche, like it's a very niche like kind of topic. And just it's for me, it's just the comedy of rich kids. Like that's really my topic of like what I've kind of selected as like where I have fun doing content in.
Have you ever faced backlash from your content?
I mean, all the time. Like that's one of the biggest things of social media. Like I'm posting controversial stuff. There's always going to be backlash, but I've never felt that like as much as I get like tens of thousands of comments of people hating on it, like the most important thing is like people who know me know it's a skit. Right. And like it's designed to be like that. The biggest thing is like I do want people to recognize like I don't spend all my time doing these videos.
No.
So and it's never been my intentions. Like if I was full time like doing this character every day, just doing angry videos, like I feel like that would say something about me. But I honestly do a lot of things and I really do this for fun. Like I've done a lot of sponsorships and it's made me great money, but like I'm not going out and selling like merch, for instance, because I don't feel the need to. I'm not trying to capitalize on like fast like money from this kind of little fame that I'm getting.
Yeah, and you have to do what you're passionate about. I'm curious, has the quality of your life gone up at all since portraying this rich persona online?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fascinating journey, like because everywhere I travel, like I will always meet people who just come up to me who are like obsessed with the character. And what's really funny is that everyone who follows me, it's usually rich kids.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that.
They
They
just
think it's
resonate
funny.
with it.
Yeah, they totally do.
Like I'll literally go to Turkey, like Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, like, and there's so many, like if I go out, like, especially if I go to like a nice club or something, I have like hundreds of people come up to me and take selfies. It's crazy. Like I can't even fathom like the international reach that it's done.
It's so impressive that you're capturing that audience as well.
I think the craziest one is when I was in Brazil. Like imagine like a 9-hour flight from here, like Sao Paulo. I go to this club and I'm like, I wonder if I'm going to meet some fans. And I literally took like 100 selfies. I was like, that's insane. Like in Brazil.
What about in New York? Are people coming up to you all the time?
In New York, people come up to me, but it's honestly like the one place that I don't feel like it gets overwhelming. It's usually like 18 to 30-year-olds who are like affluent, who just appreciate that comedy.
Let's talk about your new content series that I've been loving. Tell me about it. What inspired you to start it? I want to know. Give me the deets.
After going to Boston, I studied entrepreneurship and like I knew I wanted just to do a startup. Like I guess what I also created with the European Kid was a startup.
Did you graduate college while doing European Kids?
I started like in my last year. It was like and the only reason I really started is because I was taking summer courses. So I had some more time and I was like, I started doing content. Some of the best skits I've done are with my professors.
Oh my gosh. I haven't seen those.
Right when I was getting sick, because it's pretty old. Like it's been almost 2 years now. I remember I did this one with this Brazilian professor, super sweet. And at the time I had like probably like 100, 200,000 followers. And I was telling her like, please, I want to do a skit with you. And like, she didn't really understand. She's like, yeah, we'll do a skit, like whatever.
Yeah.
And then she like...
And then you do the character.
And then I did it and went super viral. And then she was telling me how she got like so many emails from like old colleagues, university colleagues in Brazil saying they saw the video and stuff like that, which I thought was really funny.
It's so fun when you're highlighting somebody on your channels and it goes super viral for them because they get so excited. They get so many texts.
Exactly.
I love being able to give people that experience, and it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, that person, like, I feel like you have a connection with them that you didn't have before. Okay, so you graduated college and you became a full-time content creator.
No.
Okay.
I graduated college, and I was, at the time, I had like 1 million followers on TikTok. Probably like, I don't even remember, like 400,000 on Instagram. But my parents, even though they're very supportive of like my stuff, they were like, you should kind of get a job. Like still, as much as I loved being an influencer, I wanted to work. I got really into influencer marketing software. So I started working for a startup in New York. It was actually a French company, which is funny. And just started learning a lot about like just that whole market of software and the way of like managing influencers, all the data on influencers, and being an influencer. I was really fascinated by that. And then I was working closely with friends that had started chains across New York, like fast casual places. And I was thinking to myself, like, they would tell me about just kind of their problem with getting quality influencers. And like, as an influencer, I was thinking to myself also, like, if I'm going out getting a sandwich, cup of coffee, like all these like little like low cost kind of stuff, I was like, it's kind of crazy still that like influencers can't get a way to instantly collaborate with these places, and especially like unique small spots. So that kind of got me into like really learning more about like founder stories. So it really started with like, I wanted to help my friend find quality influencers around, like really aesthetic quality influencers around the city who can come in and do collaborations in exchange for low value. Like, so exchange for products.
Right. So you're connecting business owners in New York City with influencers so that they can work together, collab. The influencers can promote their stores, their products. That's awesome.
Exactly. And then the way that it evolved is that I just started like meeting with a lot of founders, like, and especially small businesses. And I was just hearing really interesting stories about how they were getting started, like, and how they basically evolved their business. I just was like, I want to create a channel hearing the stories because they're just so unique. Like, every person who has like a business like in the food and beverage space in New York, like, has had like some fascinating story about either they've been working in finance or they immigrated from Israel, like all these unique stories. And I was like, I want to create a channel where I can like voice these stories.
It's amazing.
So that's my Storytime channel.
Last week, I saw you on my For You page. The video has 80 million views of you trying to buy a block of Parmesan cheese.
Insane. I don't even know how that happened, to be honest. Like, I was literally meeting with a client for Storytime, and we were doing a video. And I was just like, towards the end, I was like, hey, let's do like a funny video where like I grab a Parmesan and I get in line. Took me 2 minutes to film. And then I was editing it, like, and then just posted it. And then literally, like, I didn't check my phone until the next morning. I woke up 30 million. I was like, what the hell? Like, but it was awesome because that place is like so authentic. And it was a story time. Like, it was like this Italian run business in Upper East Side. I went in there, like, just did a video. It felt good, like, for them getting like almost 120 million views combined.
Have they gotten a lot more customers?
They were like sending me messages like, are we gonna have to start doing autographs soon? Like, this is insane. The biggest thing I realized also being an influencer and working in the influencer space is that everyone was telling me like, oh, I want big influencers to come to my spot. When I got management, I realized like we go into those meetings and we're like, here's the rates, you know, we start at crazy numbers and like, you got to work with this, like these budget, like these rates. And I was thinking to myself, like, still like there's such a big disconnect like over the value that person's really providing, especially like local businesses in New York. The most important people to post about them are hyper local influencers. So like if you have a place in Flatiron, you really want to get an audience that's in Flatiron. If a person has 2,000 followers, they obviously, most people think that's not an influencer, but to me that is, because if those 2,000 followers are mostly in Flatiron And most importantly, they're not followers, they're more friends. That's a lot more effective as opposed to a big influencer who might have 100,000 followers, but all her followers are in Brazil.
Are the stores paying the micro influencers for their posts?
No, right now it's really just gifting.
I can remember being a small influencer because before I started my running interview show, I was just posting kind of generic content online. I was having a lot of fun with it, but it was never like wasn't a show that I could monetize. And I remember I was like looking for apps and looking for platforms, websites where I could figure out how to work with brands, because I was like, how are all these people working with brands? Like, I want to work with brands. Like, I have a X amount of followers. I think I could. And it really wasn't until I got, my business manager now, who's been so great, that's helped. And obviously, like, when you start a platform, you get a lot of emails and it all kind of takes off, whatever. But I remember being a smaller influencer and wondering how it all worked. So I think this is going to be an amazing solve for those people.
There's people doing similar stuff, but really what I focused on was for me, still it's crazy that like I go to, and I got a lot of inside like just knowledge about seeing what type of influencers are being sent to certain places. I was like, it's crazy. Like, this influencer on paper, like 200,000 followers, looks great, but like, have you really looked at their data? And that's really the biggest thing, just kind of unveiling like the reality of every influencer. And I just think the future of having nano and micro influencers, especially if you have 100 over one influencer that you're paying like, a $10,000 video for, I think that's a lot more effective. And that's really what my app is about, and like what I've created as my community.
I'm so excited to see where you take it and how everything goes. I think it's going to be amazing.
Thank you.
I loved this. I'm so happy we got to see a different side of you. Everybody, thank you for listening to this week's episode of Post Run High.